Hey everybody, let me start the video off by thanking you genuinely. Those of you who participated in this last UTC, it was 8 weeks long. Every single day you're getting a video, at least 10 minutes long, some of them 20 minutes long. Phase 1, 2, 3, 4 seminars are going to be 20 to 25 minutes. Because the videos are private, some of them I make public, very few. Some of the things that are public are more for topics for the general population that I think are important to hear, but almost every video is private, so I can see how many people are watching the videos compared to how many are signed up for the program. And we have a participation rate of over 85%, which is unreal considering 8 weeks of work every single day where you have to listen to something. And then the interaction with you guys has been phenomenal. Many of you interact with me almost every day. The Q&As have been really great. The UTC is always what you make of it, and this group has been amazing. I try to do a wrap-up video revolving around a theme, and I always try to do these wrap-ups differently. Every single UTC I try to do differently. Many people are doing it for the 20th time, and hope those of you who are veterans, please let the newbies know that every time I do this, that you learn new information. Why do you learn new information? How do I know that? Because I'm always learning new information. That's why I update these manuals every single year. As you can see, these manuals take a lot of time. I put a lot of pride into the work that I do and the learning that I do every single day. The middle of my day, every day, is devoted to learning, to teach new stuff to my clients, to people who are interested in evolving, interested in their best life, interested in this one life that you have, to achieving your best body, your best mind in terms of what you want to accomplish for yourself. This is not always easy. We all have our own obstacles, our own stress, our own things that we need to overcome. And hopefully with the right teamwork, the right framework, the right people around you, the right environment, I hope I've provided some of that for you. And if you've listened to me in terms of how to set up your home and your bedroom and everything else for your health, for your wellness, and when you're in the gym, I hope you see that I try to push you hard and try to get you to do the right things, not the wrong things, so that you guys can continue to evolve and not get hurt. Having said all that, the theme I want to give for this wrap-up has to do with my philosophy background. I taught philosophy for almost 20 years at Collier. It's been a passion of mine since I was 13 years old. I wrote a book called Chasing 22, many of you know, which is very philosophy-driven, but there are a lot of health topics in there. My point in that book really revolves around the fact that we all want to change and we want certain things for ourselves. So what the heck is it that's preventing us from doing it? And it turns out that I named 22 things that you really don't even think about that are influencing you constantly, on a constant basis. And in many scriptures and philosophy all around the world, they have a constant theme. And that's really the theme that I want to use in this seminar. And the theme is, those who have ears, let them hear. Those who have ears, let them hear. This is a constant theme said in especially the Eastern thought, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita. Those who have ears, let them hear. It's something that maybe you hear that and you go, well, what the hell does that mean? Well, I can tell you, there's a big difference between listening to somebody and hearing somebody. There's a subconscious mind involved that doesn't want to die. There's a part of you that wants to keep being exactly who you are. And you can see this reflected in the people around you, people that see that you're trying to change or do things for yourself, and they may be trying to keep you the same, right? So when it comes to your eating patterns, for example, you start throwing the stuff out that doesn't belong, you're met with a whole bunch of umbrage in the household, right? You are put in a situation where you're the crazy person. And yet in the UTC, this is rule number one. If it's in your home, you're going to eat it. How do I know that? Because I've been doing this my entire adult life. I've been teaching people my entire adult life, 7 days a week. You guys know I'm at the gym 7 days a week, every single morning and every single weeknight. I've been doing this for 20 years professionally. And I've taught high school philosophy and math for another 20 years. So I know what I'm talking about when it comes to teaching people, when it comes to their tendencies in terms of learning and what the obstacles are. I see them firsthand, and I'm telling you, rule number one is that if it's in your home, you will eat it. That means that if you cook it, if you bake it, no matter what you do, I assure you it's going in your mouth. I don't care what you tell yourself. I don't care what you think you believe. I don't care about portion control or anything else. What I've been trying to teach you guys has to do with the foods that you eat actually do matter. They actually do matter. And that's what I want to get into in this review, because I think a lot of this stuff, it's very easy to fly over your head. So if you have ears, listen. If you have ears, listen. And when I'm saying listen, I'm talking about your rational mind. I'm talking about the reasonable mind. I'm not talking about the mind that goes, well, that sounds like a good concept. Let me hear it and store it away somewhere back here in my subconscious. I'm talking about the reasonable mind that hears it and goes, I must apply that. I must apply that very reasonable piece of wisdom that took many people many, many years to figure out in their lives, to recognize how critical this component of success actually is. So just rule number one, okay, is more influential, more powerful than the average person will choose to believe. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is look at yourself. Recognize if you have company over, people that come into your home with their own food or their own this or their own that, whether it's for a party or a Super Bowl or whatever it is, watch what happens. Do you throw it out when they leave? How much of it do you eat when they come over? If you go to the break room at work, or it's somebody's birthday, it's when it's in your environment, people eat it. So just recognize the value of what I'm explaining here. And then what do? We go to restaurants and we eat out all the time. And I explain, if you don't have control over your food, how that food is actually prepared, what's actually going in it, what the consequences are. If you have ears, listen. If you have ears, listen to me. The most important thing is having control over your environment. So we covered many things that have to do with health. The number one and the most important thing has to do with food. The second thing we went over is exercise. We went over 5 usual suspects that show up in breathing patterns, that show up in wrists and ankles, that show up in spine mobility. So that's thoracic spine mobility and lumbar stability. We went over the posterior chain and why it's so important that posterior chain must be strong. Okay. We went over a whole bunch of critical pieces of information and how to fix them and why you must address them before you move into other things. Okay, so if you can't cash the check, guess what's going to happen? If your body can't cash the check, it will find a way to cash the check. Meaning, if you don't have the mobility in your ankles, for example, guess what's going to cash the check? Your knee. Your knee is a hinged joint. So if you don't have the supination and pronation in your ankle to do certain things, guess what? Your knee will do it for you. And it doesn't like to do that motion. It doesn't like going side to side. Okay, it's a hinge joint. And so same thing. If your hips, if you're look at your hip, that's where the femur, the head of your femur goes right into the ball and socket joint of your pelvis. So if that's not mobile, which most people aren't because we sit all day, most people can't go into extension in their hip. So guess what happens? Guess what cashes that check? It's your lumbar spine. And then we wonder why our backs hurt so much. It's because we literally can't put our knee behind our butt when we lunge or even walk for that matter. We implicate our lumbar spine, which is meant to be very stable. And all of a sudden we have an extension problem in our back. The women with extreme lordosis in their lower back, you have the opposite problem. You need more stability. You need more. You need to understand how to stabilize your core. You need to do the opposite. You need to do things that allow your pelvis to tuck, and the other way around, where there's a crazy posterior. So you either have a posterior tilt or an anterior tilt. You need to be able to do both. The whole pelvis should be able to move, and it should be able to move it in any range and direction. I'm saying this because that is the center of your body. And there's so much talk about core work, and what people envision as core work is laying on your ground and doing crunches. No. In fact, you guys notice when we do things at the gym in a particular way, you notice that you're doing things where you're thinking about pushing your lumbar spine into the floor in a particular way, right? And you're moving your body in a certain pattern in a particular way in order to mitigate the movement in your lumbar spine. So that involves bringing your knee into your chest. It involves things like pushing down on bands, which activates the anterior core. There are lots of tricks to fix this issue, because what the average person does when they do crunches is they're just, hurting their neck, first of all, and they're just causing more problems in their lumbar spine by putting it into more flexion. So I'm saying all these things to you guys because the way that we approach everything in the UTC has to do with how to do it right. Whether it's movement, whether it's food, whether it's sleep, no matter what it is, it's how to do it correctly. If you have ears, please hear. Please listen. When it comes to sleep, I went through 12 things for sleep hygiene. I said if you have legitimate insomnia, I explained to you guys, here's what to listen to, here are the steps to follow, these are the things to do. We know about insomnia. We know enough that this is how you need to approach it. There's a psychosomatic component to it. There's people that specialize in it, but there are ways to address it. If you didn't hear all of the things that I talked about in terms of the importance of your health when it comes to sleep, well, Matthew Walker wrote a book this thick, and it goes through everything from your brain health, meaning every neurodegenerative disease that you can imagine is mapped onto lack of sleep, your ability to recover from muscle function, your hormones, your blood glucose, your IQ, you name it. If you're chronically sleep deprived, that includes even just one night, your consequences will follow you through the whole week. And the older you get, the more important it becomes. So we focused on, essentially, these components of eating, sleeping, exercising, and recovering. And in terms of recovering, we talked a lot about the parasympathetic nervous system. What do you do to recover? I stressed a lot of breathing work and how to do breath work. I sent some videos there. I sent actually several videos there on different ways to do it. And I showed you what it can turn into. But remember, this is something that we're doing 25 to 30,000 reps every day, breathing. And if we're not breathing right, if you're doing it wrong, if you're constantly breathing thoracically, guess what happens? You're going to get more anxiety. You're going to get your intercostals much tighter. The average person isn't breathing correctly. How do I know that? Well, first of all, if you have 25, 30 pounds to lose, meaning the average person, the average man should be about 5'9", 5'10", between 5'9" and 5'10", and about 170 pounds. That's what it should be. That's BMI. Today, that average man is closer to 200 pounds. So the average man has 30 pounds to lose. That weight that's hanging out in your stomach, every time you sit down, which is most of the day, that stomach is pushing up on your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is meant to be able to move, to breathe correctly. It's meant to be able to move. Because we sit down so much, our hip flexors get real tight. Guess what? The psoas, which is a really, really big hip flexor muscle, gets super tight. It ties into the bottom of your diaphragm. It also ties into your lumbar spine, the discs in your lumbar. So when you stand up and you sort of feel like it's hard to straighten out, it's not just your back that's hard to straighten out because those muscles get so tight. It's also the base of your diaphragm. I assure you the average person isn't breathing correctly. They're breathing way up here, not diaphragmically. Some people compound the problem by breathing through their mouth, and they do it a lot at night. They're breathing through their mouth instead of their nose at night. It's only enzymatically that you create nitric oxide through your nose. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator. It is the thing that is probably the most important thing for overall heart health that you do every single second. So if you look at, and we went into research here talking about nitric oxide and the NOS gene, which maps onto your body's ability to convert nitric oxide, those people that have hampered ability to convert nitric oxide, that NOS gene, look it up for yourself, are more likely to die of a heart-related death. Why? Because nitric oxide opens everything up. You have a nitric oxide factory right here in your nose, and you're meant, literally meant evolutionarily, to breathe through your nose. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you're breathing 8 hours a night through your mouth, and to compound it, if you also have sleep apnea, which means that you hold your breath, okay, guess what? Guess what else? Guess what else maps onto sleep apnea? Being overweight. If you're overweight, you're much more likely to have sleep apnea. Why? Because of the breathing difficulty in the diaphragm. Again, if you have all this extra weight on you, it puts a lot more pressure on your ability to breathe correctly diaphragmically. We talked about ways to fix that. What to do with your mouth, what to do with your nose, how to prepare the nose before sleep. We gave, even some breathing work before bed. There's ways to mitigate these things before you need to go, perhaps, to go get a sleep apnea check to see if you have sleep apnea and have to sleep with a CPAP machine, which will add years to your life for sure. I'm saying these things, guys, because we went through so much information that literally will and can change your life. Change your life. Meaning, everybody has hindsight 2020. Do you know how many? I've been doing this for 20 years, and then people go, if only I did what Tom said, blah. Whether it had to do with their knee pain or their shoulder pain or their weight loss or their sleep apnea or whatever it is, if only I did what Tom said. And the shit, most of it is easy. Most of the things I gave you guys is real simple to do. Just do this. If you're having trouble sleeping, set your room up like this. Make sure you're not doing that. If you're having difficulty getting rid of certain foods, okay, have this instead of that. It's always trying to meet you guys halfway. If you have ears, hear me. If you have ears, you've heard me. Because it really is that important. As soon as something bad happens, right? Like I tell everybody, everyone's an athlete. What do you mean, Tom? What do you mean, Tom? I'm 60 years old. How am I an athlete? Well, because the first time you trip or fall or slip on the ice, you're a fucking athlete real fast. Real fast. You don't have a choice. And what you notice are the people who, do the things that I've been telling them to do, guess what happens? They recover much faster. Or they're less likely to actually fall. They're more likely to catch their balance, brace themselves. That is athleticism in action. It's the definition. Because they have the good ankle mobility, because they've strengthened their bones, they're not going to break their bone, right? They're going to get bruised instead of breaking a bone. And by the way, when it comes to women and bone health, the older you get, the more brittle your bones become. Why? Because of estrogen. Estrogen is the thing that keeps your bones nice and strong. So if you want to maintain those healthy bones, ladies, you better keep strength training, take your vitamin D with K2, and make sure that you focus on being strong. I've had so many people say to me over the years, they go to their reunions for high school or this or that, or a friend dies at 60, 65 years old, and they go to the funeral and they see people and they go, oh my God, Tom, thank you so much for you. Thank you for the things you've taught me, because I look at my peers right now and I'm scared, right? Why? Because they look like shit. They're heavy as hell and they can't move. That could be your destiny if you don't take what I'm saying serious now, because the aging process is exponential. It's not linear. It's exponential. Once you get past about early to mid 50s, the process of getting older and the things that happen to your body and cellular senescence gets worse and worse and harder and harder. And the things that you have to do to mitigate these problems becomes more vigilance. So do you want to start the habits now, or do you want to just take medications as you get older, which will do what? It'll crash your sex drive. It'll take away your energy. It'll make you feel tired all the time. It'll take away your take away your physical strength. I mean, who wants that? Okay, the way that these medications work for longevity have everything to do with how they work on the mTOR pathway, which we covered, which takes away essentially your life's vitality. Those of you that are on statins and blood pressure medications and all this shit, you know what I'm talking about. It's hard for your dick to get hard. It's hard for you to have the energy to train. It's hard for you to have, it's hard to have, the drive. You get a lot of brain fog. All these things are, quality of life issues. It's hard for you to keep muscle mass. It's hard for a lot of things. Or would you rather set yourself up by understanding certain principles, how to maximize hormones, how to keep yourself healthy so that you don't need these medications, and understand if you even need them? If you even need them, we did a whole talk on blood work and what really matters in blood work and what doesn't. And I sent the research. I sent you not one, not two, not three. I sent you a half a dozen experts talking about things when it comes to cholesterol and what you should really look for and the cluster of stuff that really matters. And if it's only the LDL that's high, you should think twice about taking your statin because there is a quality of life component to it. And if you're still scared, there are tests that you can take, right? That to put your mind at ease. So there's a lot of information that was shared. A lot. It wasn't just, hey, eat this. This is your food plan, right? I tried to teach everybody components of what it means to be a healthy person. Giving you a food plan is 1%. Just 1% of what I've been trying to teach. I gave you a shopping list. That's really important. Things that you should be focusing on eating. Whole foods, avoiding linoleic acids, right? Avoiding sugars, focusing on fiber, focusing on protein, and all of the reasons why. If you have ears, you heard me. If you had ears, you heard me. When I explained about if your goal was to lose weight, if the goal is weight loss, you heard me explain the black box of the body. All of the things that are in this black box. That food comes in, it goes into the black box, and at the end of the day, whatever the expenditure is, whether it's minus 100 calories or minus 10 calories or plus 350 calories, whatever it is, I explained how that will equate to weight loss or weight gain. And guess what? It's fucking universal. You're not special. You're not the person that goes, no matter what I do, wrong. Your body obeys the laws of thermogenesis, just like everybody else. There could be something wrong with your black box, which means your body, meaning your thyroid could be shot, meaning that you don't understand the principles that we've been explaining and touting in the UTC for many years now. This is a science. This isn't a fucking scam. This is me explaining to you, hey, this is how food works. This is how the black box works. This is how you exercise without hurting yourself and maximize gains. Okay? I don't have to explain. I don't need to, show off. What can you do, Tom? Can you prove it? Okay, you guys know that I can fucking kick ass in the gym, and I'm 46 years old. And bring your son or anybody else in that you think can outcompete me in anything, okay? In anything in the gym, anything at all. Okay, I'll be happy. Pick 3 lifts, and I'll still kick their ass, whether it's strength, whether it's endurance, whatever it is, okay? No problem. And by the way, take your shirt off too. I'm not saying these things to impress you. I'm saying them to impress upon you. I fucking live this. And I know that I don't have to convince you guys of this. What I'm saying is, if you have ears, please listen, because the results are worth the effort. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it every morning to wake up and go, you know what? I can fit in this, and I look good in that, and not have to worry about how you look or feel in certain outfits, or if you're going to have the energy to make it through the day, or how you're going to feel late at night and feel like you need to overeat. These things, guys, over time become what's called your life, right? How you approach each day, how you feel each day. And this program has been designed to maximize not just your body and your physique and your overall health, but your overall life and how you approach it and how you feel. Okay? So if you have ears, please listen, revisit that manual, go through those videos again, day by day, and hopefully things will start to click for you guys. All right? Thank you again for all of your participation. I hope you have a great rest of the year, and I hope you participate in the next UTC. Thanks again, everybody.